Hello, and welcome to Shortcut Up CNC. Today we're going to look at a little bit of a different setup of squares. It looks like a chessboard or a weave. I mean, you see all these intersections and all these lines being drawn. Each one of these was drawn with line vectors, okay, in both the horizontal and the vertical orientation. Okay, so that's the way most people, when they first come into the V-Carve Pro or Aspire programs by Vectric, and they don't know all the features that are available to them within V-Carve or Aspire. And this is typically the way most people would attempt to create this. But the problem with this is you create all these intersections. These intersections are going to won't work very well in this particular carving. He'll be crossing over. It wouldn't be neat, so to speak. In fact, if I was to create a tool path and all that, you would see that. But anyway, you would have to manually clean up all these vectors, intersections, by using the trim tool. Manually doing each one of these by trimming them out. Now, I'm going to undo each one of those that I just did. And I'm going to show you how many times you will have to do that. First, we're going to highlight. We're going to go to the vector validator, and we're going to do a search on that. It's telling me there's 312 intersections that you would have to manually clean up with the trim tool. So that's a lot of work, and that can be avoided by going and doing it with the features that are within V-Carve or Aspire. Let's go to sheet 2. There we go. All right, let's see what we got here. Now you notice there's no intersections. Now this was created with the tools within V-Carve or Aspire, the features within. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new sheet, and I'll show you that. We add the new sheet. We open up the drawing area a little bit. We can double click on the sheet and it'll bring it up. That saves you from having to go all the way over here and selecting it from here. Now we're going to go to the drawing tab. I want to draw a 1-inch square. Okay, 1 inch by 1 inch. And I want the square corners. I don't want it radiused. And I'm going to put that right here in the lower left-hand corner. And I close this. I'm going to leave this highlighted. And I'm going to go over here to this tool here. It's called Array Copy. We're going to select it. It tells me that the square is in the bottom corner, 1 inch from the outside edge, which is from my datum. My datum is in the lower left-hand corner. I want 9 rows in the y-axis, 9 columns in the x-axis. I want a gap between the x and y of the square of 1/8 of an inch in both directions. And I want to group the copies. You don't necessarily have to group them, but in this particular case, I want it grouped. That way nothing will move when I attempt the next object. or a next attempt. So we say copy. There we go. And also, when you want to center things, sometimes I like to group it to make sure nothing moves within this group. It's a safety measure for me. So I always attempt to group things when I go to move them. But sometimes when you go to do that, they all group to the center. All these little squares will lay right up on top of each other right here in the center. I don't want that. So that saves me from having to do that when I group things. And that's a nice tip to put out there. Okay, now what I want to do with this group is I want to put a 1/8 square outside of this group of squares. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the square or draw rectangle tool, and I want square corners. We don't worry about the position right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here out in the drawing area. I'm going to select this corner and go all the way to the lower right, select that corner. That's my square. So I can close this, and you can see the vector right there. It's all the way around the outside. Now, that's not where we want it, but there's another feature within V-Carve and Aspire, which is called the offset tool. I want to offset that vector outwards. You want to make sure the vector is selected also. I want a distance of 1/8 of an inch outwards. I want to maintain sharp corners. If you don't check this, what happens is it rounds off the corners as it steps outward or steps inward. So I want to keep the sharp corners. I no longer want this original vector, so I'm going to delete it when it creates a new one, and it will select the new one. So let's do that. Boom. It deleted the original, created a new one with sharp corners, just like what I've asked for here. So we can close that. And now we have an identical setup in sheet 3 as we do in sheet 2. So there you've seen how to create a simple chessboard or checkerboard by using the features within V-Carve or Aspire. You no longer have to go to drawing vectors, all these vectors, and then duplicating the vectors each instance. All you need to do is draw the squares, copy the squares, and then finish it off by putting a 1/8 square around the outside perimeter. So there you have it, folks. Easy features within V-Carve and Aspro, created by Vectric. Thank you for watching Sharp Cut Up CNC.